Hello, everyone.
Hey, we are here at Bean & Bean in Queens, New York, and this is the next of our really cool themed release of the Chronicles series. So we have 1 coffee, 3 roast levels, and this is a really interesting collaboration we've pulled off where we have 1 coffee roasted 3 ways. So this is just a great opportunity to figure out what kind of roast level of coffee you like. Oftentimes people ask, do you like light roast, medium roast, dark roast? So what we did here is we took 1 coffee from Bean & Bean and we roasted it 3 ways. And you guys get to taste a really interesting, and you guys get to taste 3 different expressions of 1 coffee. So let's talk a little bit about this coffee and then begin tasting.
Yeah, so this coffee is Kenya washed, Kenya AB washed, a very fruity. When I cupped it, it stood out for its stone fruit notes. And so when Brian asked me, hey, let's do this fun project, a 3 different expression of one coffee, light, medium, dark, I thought, wow, what a great educational exercise, because rarely do you get the chance to taste the same coffee in 3 different ways. And I think we did a little brew of these 3 versions, and they all stood out to me for different reasons. So I'm excited to be cupping these with you.
Yeah, so the entire point of this is, when you get the tasting set in, taste them all side by side, either in a cupping format like this, or brew them all side by side. But they all distinctively smell different. So let's quickly smell these coffees and see what we get. Wow.
Yeah, so lots of bright fruit. Here you start to smell a little more of the roastiness. And then this is that classic.
The darker, more bold smell. But if you look at the beans, if you take the beans out, side by side, they might not look very different. But once you grind them, you will for sure be able to see a roast color difference. For example, here is the dark, medium, and light all next to each other. And you can see there's a huge color difference, but more so you can smell how roast level is impacting the flavor here. And now let's throw on some water and taste. Okay, so smelling these coffees.
Yeah, the aroma, the difference is made even more.
It's very apparent, yeah.
Yeah.
Even when you look at the crusts here in the cupping, you can see—
I wish we could show them.
Yeah, you'll be able to see different levels, amount of bubbles in each of these. But for sure, this smells, sweet, floral, it's lighter. This is kind of in between, it's the medium roast where we're getting more, I get a little bit of this like nice, also like a nice sweet aromatic, but then it goes into like some sort of like chocolate, I would say like a caramel, honey sort of sweetness. And then this is your bold, dark chocolate, a roasty presentation.
Like raisin.
Darker fruits. So what will be interesting is when we taste is you can look for 1 flavor note in the light roast and then see how that note transforms across the three coffees here. So there is this acidity in this cup that really will change. Like there is still acidity even in the darker roast coffee here, but you'll see that how it transforms. And I think that's what's so fun. So now we're going to break the crust where you'll get a lot of those aromatics. So even though you're smelling just the crust when you're doing something like cupping, they smell very, very different, but now we're releasing all of those aromatics under that layer there. And this will be very apparent when you're also brewing the coffees as well. Yeah, they look very, very different. The amount of bubbles is for sure going to be more with the darker roast coffee compared to the lighter roast coffee. So that's the biggest thing, is because there is essentially more time the coffee spends in the roaster, there's gonna be more CO2 in there, and visually what you're going to see is you're going to see more bubbles, and you're going to see, I would say, a thicker presentation of the coffee, especially in something like a cupping, more bubble space. You'll also visually be able to see, once you scoop off that top layer there, what the colors are in here. Your dark roast coffee, to no one's surprise, your lighter roast coffee is going to look a little bit lighter than your dark roast coffee. So this is something where you could try to do this blind, but you might be able to just look at the coffees and be like, okay, this one's lighter, this one's darker, so on and so forth. But the medium one is, somewhere in between these two. Yeah, they all smell distinctively different.
A fun experiment you can try is if you somehow feel like, oh, this is too light, but this is too dark, you can mix 50-50 and brew it like that and see, do you like that presentation more than the first or second?
Yeah. But they're so distinct. You know what? That's what's so fun with this is it's still the same coffee. It's still the same roast profile, and they're roasted the same. They're just left in the roaster a little bit longer, and they all are distinctively different.
So, what would be an analog to frying eggs? Do you know your egg styles?
Not entirely.
You guys know? You need what?
Isn't it sunny side up?
Over hard.
Okay, this is over easy, over medium, over hard. No yolk left. All the juicy yolk remaining, so you can pop it. This is somewhere in the middle.
All right, let's begin tasting. This is what is so fun is comparative tasting. 3 coffees, one coffee, but 3 different ways, 3 brews of the coffee side by side. So let's try now. Wow. Light, floral, juicy acidity in the light roast. Really nice, sweet. This is a very clean coffee as well, so not really tasting any sort of harshness in here. Just nicely held together.
Juicy.
Juicy, yes. Medium roast. That's interesting. Definitely a bit more body.
Yeah.
A lot more caramel, chocolate, honey, I think is a note that we have on there as well. But for sure, the biggest difference, the 2 biggest differences I see between this one and this one is the acidity is a lot heavier, body's a lot heavier, a lot more chocolate, not as delicate. And then the dark roast here, very different.
It's a dark roast.
It's a dark roast. There's a lot of chocolate there. It is still pretty sweet. And this acidity from the first cup has really transformed across these 3 cups. So this light roast, I would say the acidity is more of like a citrus, I would say, or I don't know what we actually put on here. But what is?
Yeah, there's citric, a little bit of malic, lots of like stone fruit.
Yeah, that's still actually present in even the medium and the dark roast. It just really has transformed, where this, I would say, is that citrus acidity up front. It's very clean. And then as you get darker and darker, it starts to take a seat back, where like I would say this is acidity forward. This here is like now that acidity is now balanced with this nice like caramel, honey, milk chocolate. And then this here, the chocolate part has gone up, where there's acidity kind of behind that. So there's this dark chocolate that is there. Then this citrus acidity or stone fruit acidity has become something more like a raisin.
Yeah, I think to recap what Brian is saying, there is an inverse relationship between acidity and body/sweetness. So here from left to right, we have high acidity going to decreasing acidity. From right to left, we have high, big body, sweetness, caramel, decreasing to the left.
Yes, where we're getting more acidity and I would say less body. This is for sure more tea-like, but this is just an example of, a strong coffee. Like, this is a really great coffee where you can stretch it in different ways, roasting it darker, roasting it lighter, and it's really held up. But that's why we went with this coffee, and Bean & Bean has done a great job at roasting this coffee and putting this tasting set together. But the entire point of what we want to do is we wanted to present you all a very interesting educational aspect of coffee, which is, can we demystify roast level? Can you figure out which coffee you like the most? Maybe it's something in between these. And that's what's really fun with all of this is one coffee roasted 3 ways. And I think this is kind of the whole thing that we're about here at xBloom is, want to just present interesting topics on coffee. And we're happy to have pulled this off. And I really want to thank Bean & Bean, Ji-yoon here for working with us on this release. But if you guys have any questions, let us know. We'll have a bit more posts about this, a bit more videos, and maybe a live stream and so on and so forth.
I think one big takeaway for you can be, if you always thought of yourself as a light roast lover, but you find yourself gravitating towards the medium/dark. Maybe you enjoy darker, more developed coffees than you may think you do. And the reverse also can be true. Maybe you've always thought of yourself as a dark roast lover, but you actually like the light to medium presentation. Try experimenting with less developed coffees. I think this is a great way to really think about what your preferences are. And it could also be the case that you like all three presentations and you're neither a light roast or a dark roast person. You can enjoy all forms of coffee.
Yeah, but this is just an example of we have a really great coffee that's roasted well in all these different ways, and you're able to experience, what is a good presentation of a light roast, medium roast, and a dark roast, and see how these flavors transform. This is really helpful for learning about coffee, but more so it's fun and helpful to figure out what you actually enjoy. So thank you so much for spending your time to watch this video. Thank you, Jiyun. Thank you guys for picking up this coffee and tasting it side by side with us. But we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.